In association with Official Wrestling comes A Few Good Marks podcast. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to A Few Good Marks. I'm your host, Kieran, and I'm joined by Croft.
Hello.
Alex.
Hi.
Candy.
Stop.
And Willow. Wow, brilliant. Wow, such enthusiasm. So, this is a podcast that we thought we'd do on All Elite Wrestling. Obviously, it was announced not too long ago, and we haven't been together in a while to discuss the reasons going on, and we thought this deserved a podcast all on its own.
I thought it deserved
Alex thought it deserved a podcast all on its own, and we agreed with her.
We vehemently disagreed, but here we are.
Yeah, but there we go. But since we did a podcast on All In on its own, we may as well dedicate a quick one, or however long this is going to be, to All Elite anyway. So, to kick us off, on New Year's Eve 2018, Cody, the Young Bucks, and Adam Hangman Page announced the forming of AEW All Elite Wrestling.
Woo!
Yeah. This is your. I'm mostly going to Alex at this point. So, like, what when you first saw that video, what did you think? What went through your mind?
Well, at first, I thought that it wasn't real. I was a bit like, what's this? And then, then as it, digested, I was absolutely buzzing because in my heart of hearts, I didn't want them going to WWE. And I thought that this would be the thing that not so much competes with WWE, and I think I said this on the group chat, but something that's going to compete with the likes of TNA, well, Impact, Ring of Honor,
Yeah.
and, you know, it'll...
Candy just dropped a chip on himself.
Why?
I didn't do it on purpose, you daft
Well, alright then!
That's like the question from Harry Potter, wasn't it? I fell over. What'd you fell over for? Well, I didn't do it on purpose.
Well, yeah, I think that it's just going to compete with, like, the top...
Indies.
Absolutely.
Not even so much indies, but, like, the alternative.
See, the thing is that interestingly, when I was going through making these notes, that I read that All In was the it made the most ticket sales and was the biggest draw since WWE bought WCW, which meant not even TNA and Impact had made ticket sales or sold out a venue this big.
And that quick.
Especially that quick. It was sold out in half an hour. So, to me, the second company, the company that almost had a chance to stick it to Vince McMahon, which was TNA, they hadn't even sold out a building this large at all. Mm-hmm. And these guys on their first try, sort of things like 11,800 odd, something like that.
Yeah.
Like to do that on their first go within half an hour, phenomenal.
I think as well, I read an interview where the Young Bucks did an interview and someone had said to him, like, do you think that this is going to be, are you going to be competing with WWE? And they said, we don't need to compete because that's not what we're trying to do.
No, it's an entirely different product in a way.
And
they're there for the pure wrestling fans.
Yeah,
that's what this is.
He was like, we're doing it for the fans. Like, we're not doing it to compete, and we don't want to compete. If anything, we want to be working alongside them to, boost each other's product. And I think that it will be actually a really good way to.
It's whether WWE concede to seeing that point of view because, as I think Jericho said in his podcast, which he talks about AEW. It was his first ever podcast that he did by himself or something.
Yeah.
And so he just went on about this whole deal for quite a while, and he openly says, like, to WWE, any wrestling company that has a show on TV is competition.
Yeah.
Which is why they jumped in so quickly with OSW, I would assume. So it's whether WWE concede to seeing that side of things, and do go, all right, yeah, okay, you guys can have this person, we'll borrow this person from you for this match. So it remains to be seen. Anyway, they announced a rally was going to take place on the 8th of January in the car park of the TIAA Bank Stadium in Jacksonville, and it was scheduled a few hours before SmackDown Live was scheduled to take place at the PPG Paints Arena in Jacksonville, Florida, which was just across the road.
Sounds
So-
classy, that.
On a
Let's have
PPG
our rally
Paints Arena.
in a car
Do you know
park.
what? I bet that was
Like
Matt Jackson's
WrestleMania
idea.
9.
Well, I mean, like,
Jesus, parking
Can I
lot.
have one of those stickers? I've been looking at them for ages.
one of the thingy ones, yeah.
Yeah.
So like the whole like and I think Jericho made this point of view as well. It was done specifically,
Don't
I think,
need so much,
to
by the way.
to send a message to Vince, like, you know, like, because they had the whole fireworks going off on the top of the stadium and everything. So, and Jericho was saying that he could imagine Vince in a production meeting saying just like, "Someone turn the damn pyro off."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was done to send a message. So like, I can absolutely see why it was done, and it was really, really cool. Anyway, more to come on the rally. Anyway, Cody and the Bucks officially signed for AEW on the 2nd of January, and it was announced that they would serve as executive vice presidents, whilst Tony Khan will be the chairman. Tony Khan and his father Sahid, who is the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and Fulham FC, were said to be financially backing the company. So
I bet they haven't mentioned the fact they owned Fulham FC in any of the marketing.
Jericho mentioned it.
Oh, did he?
Jericho mentioned it.
Oh,
like,
bless
you know, and and the thing Jericho mentions is that the Premier League and the NFL, they're in the business of entertainment in a way, and that is proper sports entertainment. You've got to do well to, you know, in those businesses to do it. Fortunately for the Jaguars, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to get relegated from that league because there's nowhere else to go. He did say Fulham, you know, they also own Fulham Football Club. Hopefully they're not going to get relegated this because they're not doing too well. But yeah, they did. Jericho did allude to it. So they have money in them, and he also did allude, which is interesting for you guys if you've not heard it. It's like they're based in London. Obviously, they're going to be in London at some point.
Well, yeah.
So that's a future podcast in the
I look
making.
forward to Cody Rhodes coming out in black and white for Fulham.
In a Fulham kit.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
I look forward to seeing Brandy Rhodes in a Fulham kit.
Wow.
Speaking of Brandy Rhodes, actually, oh yeah, there we go. Speaking of Brandy Rhodes, on the 3rd of Jan, my notes specifically state this: Willow's favourite, Brandy Rhodes, signed for the company and was named Chief Brand Officer. Not Brandy Officer, Chief Brand Officer, as she would name them, but it is essentially the same role that Stephanie McMahon has in WWE.
It's exactly
really
the same
like
role.
It is
I feel
this,
like she's really qualified for this role.
I think she'd be.
No, I don't.
I hope she's more qualified for this role.
Neither is
No,
Stephanie.
she's like
She's grown-
she's quite
she's-
smart. Person,
She's
to be
probably
fair.
going to be the Steph McMahon there, and as much as we all absolutely despise Stephanie McMahon, it is needed in a way. I think she'll go with it at first, like, oh yeah, like equal pay for women, yeah, and then I think she'll do the whole like, this is my company, and I think that's needed in every. I
No,
think
I
rather
think
than
she's
go,
got the same
Couldn't
job
I-
as Stephanie McMahon and Herman Goering in propaganda. Or was it
I
Goebbels?
don't think. I think like,
Joseph
as a
Goebbels.
lot of online video top 10 channels have pointed out that the authority angle of things has really played its day. Like, there's okay with having a commissioner or something like that. Like Jack Tunney back in the day, he'd appear on screen maximum of 30 seconds to make a match official.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He was not seen. It was only until Vince McMahon started to do his heel run that was then continued, and it's then been a massive thing, and it's now been played out absolutely. And that's why I quite liked I think that SmackDown felt good when they had Teddy Long as manager.
Holla, holla.
Holla, holla.
Because he was a face manager who would only act in the way of fairness, which made things completely right. So
I'm not sure how booking everyone in a match with The Undertaker is fair.
or in a tag team
Or in a
match,
tag team
which,
match player.
but you get what I mean. He always it was generally, you know, he was a face.
He wasn't a central figure.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't have
He
to
was
be.
there in the background. He was general manager. You knew who was in charge. When he came out, it was like, oh shit, okay, something's going down here. That's what was needed. I don't think Brandy will be that. I think she'd be a better brand officer than she will be a wrestler. But that's almost a given. So there we go. So on the 8th of the 8th of Jan rolled around, And along with announcing All Elite's first official show, because All In isn't technically All Elite's first official show, although it was the thing that gave birth to the whole idea. The All Elite Wrestling's first show would take place at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on the 25th of May. A vast array of talent was announced, and they include. So I'm going to read out a couple of names, and we'll get reaction based on them. So Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky.
SCU!
There you
I
go.
know the first two.
SCU. I haven't seen much
Scorpio Sky was Harold in the anger management sketches.
There you go. Apparently he's quite good, according to
not bad.
Jericho.
Oh, with Daniel Bryan and Kane.
Yeah.
Ah, that's an interesting.
Apparently he's very good.
Kane.
Good.
No, Scorpio Sky is he also works at the LA Dojo. He's like Katsuyori Shibata's the main coach, but he comes in time to time to help
Oh, right,
promote
okay.
and train them.
I must know his shit then.
I think so.
The only, apart from Brandy Rhodes, the only
Oh my
other,
god, stop mentioning Brandy Rhodes.
apart from Brandy Rhodes, the only other two female wrestlers to be mentioned so far. Is even that something that annoys you, like female wrestlers, or just other two women's wrestlers?
No.
Okay. The only other two women's wrestlers to be announced, I'm trying to get it right, is Dr. Britt Baker and Penelope Ford. I haven't seen much of Britt Baker. We saw
I
Penel-
love Britt Baker.
We saw Penelope Ford at All In,
We did,
and
so
she's very impressed.
Yeah,
I haven't seen much. I know she's. Isn't she with that?
Britt Baker was,
Baker was
Britt
all
Baker
in
was in the
as
four-way,
Oh, was she?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh shit.
and yeah, she's got.
Britt Baker.
Well, in which case, yeah, she's very good.
Britt
'cause I enjoyed
Baker
that
is
match.
really, really good. Like, really, really good. I copied my latest set of gear off hers.
Fair enough.
Like a dentist.
No, yeah, absolutely agree.
Dr.
I got
Alex
it in
Yanko.
gold. No, I got it in gold with the,
DDS.
with like silver zigzags.
Is Britt Baker the one who's currently dating Adam Cole?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What a lad. Next one, the next crop of talent is Jungle Boy, who's only just been announced. I've never seen or heard of
Jungle Boy?
Yeah,
Jungle
that's
Boy?
on
Isn't he
I know,
someone's kid?
yes.
Isn't he like David Arquette's son or something?
Yeah, I heard some
Yeah.
of
Is
that.
it? Oh, okay.
And Jungle Boy.
Joey Janela, fair play. He had a really good showing against Adam Page at All In.
Janela? I barely know her.
Oh, hey.
Brilliant.
Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, who personally I think is one of the best heels on the planet right now. He's
I don't like
absolutely
him,
phenomenal.
but I think that's the point.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely brilliant.
Is he a dick?
Oh, he's a massive
He's a-
dick. Oh,
He's a knob.
absolute bellend.
I look
Like
forward
he
to
cut a
seeing him.
promo the other day, like, and the comment on Twitter. It was a short video on Twitter, but the comment said, "People say I'm born with a silver spoon in my mouth," and it's something like, "They're right." And it was a promo. He turned around, he had a spoon in his mouth, took the spoon out, and on the back of the spoon was inscribed, "Better than you," on the spoon.
that's
So, and I showed the camera, and it was
He
like,
was on Austin's
belting.
podcast and he's like, thanks for having me on, like, cue ball. We'll see you later.
Wow. Hangman Page, obviously, as we announced, he was one of the main four to announce it, but he didn't sign on the second, so I thought it was a big one. One of the big surprises of the night was Pac showing up in
Massive.
full gear.
That's massive.
This is huge. This is an ex WWE talent showing up.
Don't stop the
To the door. Ex-WWE talent showing up, and this is like the first. Well, this was the first ex-WWE talent to show up of the night, and it's massive. Obviously, Pac is making massive waves back in the British indie scene in Dragon Gate in Japan.
I
And
think
it's going to be huge. But the thing is, something that was interesting that was brought up. We don't quite know the extent of his contract yet. Is it a one-time thing? Is it going to be like a rolling thing?
I get the feeling it's going to be a long-standing.
You say that, but I think if they play it right, it could only be because if he's already said like, I've got commitments to Dragon Gate, and this is the company who's served me well before I went to WWE. I'm going to go and serve them again now. Hence, being made the champion in their company at the moment. And then if they're building up to this one match with Hangman Page, that then builds towards a New Japan contract. He then does like stuff in New Japan, which I would imagine he works up as. But then again, it's all speculation.
I think
This may well be
for
a
Pac,
long time thing.
He's someone in WWE that everyone wanted to be booked a lot better. My dad doesn't even like wrestling, and Neville was his favourite. Well, obviously it was Neville at the time. Neville was his favourite wrestler because every time if I'd be watching it, he'd be like, "Oh, he's fucking good."
Do you know what? Exactly the same thing with my dad. Because I've
Yeah.
had wrestling on,
and he's always looked for when I first started watching it. He loved Rey Mysterio because
Yeah.
he did entertaining stuff. When I watched it again, when I came back to it, his favourite was Sin Cara. Because he saw him do that flip into the ring, he was like, "Oh, he's good. He reminds me of Rey Mysterio."
Yeah.
I put NXT on the other day. He loved Ricochet. I put Neville on. He loved Neville. I showed him like Cruiserweight Classic stuff, the Cruiserweight division. He loves all of that.
My dad's
so
the same.
I reckon Neville. Well, Pac.
I showed my dad Ricochet versus Will Ospreay and like just a highlight clip, and my dad was like just in it, just sat down. He's like, "This is mental.
Yeah.
What's this?"
It'll appeal to people who aren't big into wrestling.
Basically, if you want to get your
We'll see
dad
what they
into
do.
wrestling, show them flippy shit.
Yeah,
I think
they'll
as
love it.
well.
Show them some showcase
For-
wrestling.
For Pac, if he gets booked right, I think that they all Elite can go really smart with this and book him the way that.
WWE
Should
should.
have.
He
Yeah.
came on.
And
And I think this is
Talking
also this is a big selling point for as well is that what they're doing with Pac, that what you guys have just said, that if they're booking him, that for anyone who feels they're not being booked right, or for anyone who feels they're restricted under a certain weight limit, this is the place to go.
I'm glad we waited for that.
Sorry, go on.
I've
you know
got a
what?
crease in my eye.
Fucking hell.
Talking about booking Pac, right? It was like because he interrupted Adam Page, but Adam Page was talking about being the first AEW heavyweight champion, and that's when Pac came out. So that looks like it's
Yeah.
going to be the first match for the heavyweight title.
Yeah.
Adam Page and Pac. So straight away, he's got-
Thing is though, is it going to be
Title
called the heavyweight title or just the world title?
I don't know.
I think. Well, listen, if you've got Pac
You
going
don't know until you find out.
Well, true, but I think if they're gonna have Pat going for
Alex
it, you
is our
can't
best
call it the
mate to Nick
heavyweight.
Jackson, so we can ask him.
I'll ask him.
Yeah, I know. Message him.
So what you're saying is,
Message him, mate.
2, 1.
Oh!
So what you're saying is they
Trademark.
brought Pac in, and because of his mainstream appeal, he's being pushed to the moon.
Oh!
Yes.
Well,
Nah, 'cause he's
almost.
worked
Yeah,
hard
but he's
for
also a
years,
really good
so-
wrestler.
Let me just pick up this mic and drop it.
Yeah, but he's also a really good wrestler, though.
Yeah, so
He's
Brock
worked
Lesnar
hard
wants
for
to be.
years. He started on the
What do you
indies.
want?
I'm only joking.
I know you are, but yeah. And also, of course, the big marquee signing. No one knew he was going to be the Chris fucking Jericho.
Let me comment
Go ahead.
before you go off on one.
No, go on.
Sir.
Let's just turn the lights off. We need more shade in here.
Jesus.
Right.
Gonna go cry
No.
in the corner.
I think Chris Jericho signing for All Elite is one of the biggest statements made in modern day pro wrestling, and I'm talking since like WCW days, because Jericho always said, out of respect for Vince, he will never wrestle anywhere in the States. He will only wrestle for New Japan because he's always wanted to do it, and that's, you know, they offered him this really good contract where he could still wrestle for WWE, and he said, right, yeah, this is great. Vince, they've offered me this. Please, can I go and do it? Vince said yes. He said, I'll never work for anybody else. I think the fact that... Because basically by doing this, if it goes the way we all think it's going to go, he's probably burnt his bridges with Vince by signing.
See, you say this, and have you listened to his podcast?
Yeah,
Where he's on about
says...
AEW.
Yeah,
But he left on good terms.
Yeah,
this
I
is
know
what he
he
says
did.
with it. So, like, but I mean, it all remains to be seen in the future, and I have no doubt.
he's still
I have no
going to be
doubt
salty.
that Chris Jericho will.
Vince is still going to be salty about
But
that.
like,
though.
but it's like I don't think he'd be salty. I think because Vince knows that business is business, and I think that like whilst at this point in time, yes, you know, oh they removed, and Jericho said this on his podcast, like, oh my god, they removed him from the Insignia at the start of the show. It's like, yeah, obviously it's business. He's now currently under contract for somebody else. He's not going to promote him.
Yeah, but it's
promote that brand.
It's not. That's.
I don't think
way-
Vince is that bothered.
Yeah, but this is way past the point of what I'm saying. This is like. Do you know how I'm looking at this? You know when you've got a girlfriend, but your mate finds a fit and he goes, "I'd never go there because she was your bed," and then you split up and they shag on a night out. It's that kind of.
It's a very specific example. Of this.
It is that kind of thing. It might not. You're saying Vince might not be bothered, and if Croft shagged your ex, you probably wouldn't be that bothered. But it's going against the bro code, and that's what Jericho's done. And Jericho is someone that you would have never, ever expected that from.
So what you're saying
I
is
mean,
on the
he's the
first
shit, mate.
what you're saying is on the first AEW show, Chris is going to shag Linda McMahon.
What
Yeah.
you're saying is Jericho has shagged Crossburn and he's fine with it.
Yeah,
I think I get what you mean from, but I
It's
think
Chris Jericho.
I think Jericho has a lot of respect for Vince, and Vince vice versa, and I think
do
they
I, and I
have
don't
left on
think
good
this-
terms. I don't think it's going to damage anything that Chris has to do with it. Like, Chris will undoubtedly end up in WWE's Hall of Fame one day, because I don't think he's the type of person to go off and start slagging off the WWE, because that's not the type of person he is.
No,
He has
one
said on his
that.
podcast he has so much respect for Vince McMahon, thinks he's an absolute genius, and so I don't think that business is business.
No one said that. I just said that it's a massive
Oh,
statement.
it absolutely is. It's like huge that Chris Jericho has said, "I'm still here. I still want to be working.
It's still,
I'm not an afterthought."
It's the fact that he said, "I wouldn't do it," and then did it. That's the statement in itself. Whether you've got respect for
true.
someone, whether
I'd agree with that.
whether you've left on good terms, whether you've ended on good terms, that's still a big statement to make
Yeah, absolutely.
and a massive signing
At
for
the
him.
at the rally, there was a number of other certain things mentioned as well. Alongside that, Billy Gunn is now a producer for AEW for the company.
That's cool.
Which is interesting that Road Dogg is a producer for SmackDown. I think maybe still.
Yeah, he is still.
Is he still? Okay, that's interesting. I wonder if wins and losses still count. And then Jericho did a podcast on all this, which you can find on like Spotify. I'm pretty sure it was on YouTube or something or other. But he also claimed that at the Jacksonville rally there was over 1,000 people there. How did he know that? It wasn't ticketed, but he said they gave away towels, like rally towels. So apparently, and they all went. So apparently there was over 1,000 people there. What was interesting was WWE's reaction to all this, which at the Jacksonville show the same night on January 8th, which, as we mentioned before, the rally was held just over the road from where SmackDown was taking place. So people apparently were showing up in AEW t-shirts. They were allowed into the arena first. There was then a couple of AEW chants happening in the arena. WWE security went over, asked them to calm down a bit, and then started ejecting fans from the arena wearing AEW shirts and started refusing people entry wearing AEW wrestling t-shirts. So,
Just off the back of that,
but then
5 minutes ago you said business is business and you don't think WWE care.
this is what I mean. But as I also stated, as what Jericho said in his podcast, some sort of a citation mark, if you like, that Vince WWE claimed that anyone who is on TV is competition, and AEW are in talks with some TV channels about getting a weekly place. So it remains to be seen. But so there's, I think in WWE's mind, the sooner they can squash that, the better. But then of course the power of social media happened. People shared videos like, so I've got this t-shirt and I can't come in. Scurry like, yeah. Everyone was like, that's absolute bollocks. Also, that's hilarious. That means they're scared already. And WWE were like, okay, yeah, you can come in. That's fine. And so, that went off that. But yeah, so that's WWE. That was WWE's reaction, really. Not much else to be said on that, apart from what you just said, that they mean that like they're not sure.
Just because I've read the last note and it's not on here.
Can I just say it quick before you comment? Because I don't.
Well, I mean, you're gonna.
I'm gonna. Last line before Alex comments. Various rumours about who will be signed next and other speculations have emerged since the rally, especially those involving Kenny Omega and CM Punk.
So
CM Punk's not fucking signing for him. If you think CM Punk, I'm not saying you personally.
No,
If
I'm
out
saying
there,
rumours.
you listening to this podcast, all three of you, if any of you think CM Punk's being signed to AEW, you're a fucking baghead.
Can you imagine if he gets signed now?
Honestly, I'll fucking.
I think my fucking flex tape.
I'll leave my fucking flex Dave.
All three of our listeners are just going to be like, what?
Scran a bifter, and by that I mean smoke a bifter. If CM Punk signs to it, if CM
So
Punk,
I carry on with your daily life.
if yeah, exactly. If CM Punk signs to AEW, slap my cock and call me Jimmy. I guess I was wrong, but he's not. So enjoy him in UFC, you marks.
Tells how you really feel. Alex, what were you saying?
You didn't mention about women getting equal pay.
of course, this was one
Yeah,
of the
you
biggest
fucking
things.
sexist, misogynistic prick.
Sorry, I didn't. No, you know what? I didn't make a
Are
point
you
of it. 'cause
part
I
of
was
the
gonna.
patriarchy?
I was supposed to be sober when I was doing this. I forgot to mention it. It wasn't written down. Yeah, of course, that was one of the main things that was mentioned in Brandy Rhodes' speech during the rally. That male and female wrestlers will be getting paid the same.
I think that's brilliant.
I think that means the same
really
base wage, and then depending on how high up the card you get or what position
Yeah.
you are on the card, that means you're about to be paid the same.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, you know, like
And that's fair enough.
absolutely fair enough. But at the same time, you know, like Cody Rhodes is a bigger draw than Britt Baker at this point.
Definitely.
So therefore, he would get paid. Also, he's the vice president or whatever, so would get paid more, regardless of outcome. But yeah, absolutely, I think that's a fantastic step forward, and it is absolutely the right step to go, and may be the trigger to either force WWE
Who's the chair?
to either force WWE to change
If it was
things
me, you'd know.
to change things drastically, or for some people to jump ship. Do we think anybody is going to jump ship?
Yes, I do actually.
I do.
I don't know who.
Do you know like
Something
my
wrong.
dream
I reckon
person to
Jimmy
go?
Uso.
Julius.
Just Jimmy.
Jimmy.
Not Jay.
No.
Well, the Revival have requested their release.
They have indeed.
Fuck
requested
the
release.
Revival.
They have, but they've been denied it because they're under like contract for another year or something.
I wouldn't be
Maria and Mike
surprised.
Kanellis have requested
They
their
haven't.
release.
No, apparently
Have they
not.
not?
No, Maria came out on Twitter and said it's all lies.
Oh, okay, fair
And it's
enough.
people trying to get headlines.
Yeah, fair
But-
enough. Absolutely fair enough.
I reckon, and I don't know if they will, but I wouldn't be surprised if Zack Ryder and Chelsea Green requested their
Yeah,
release.
same.
Wow, yeah,
Yeah, me too. And
especially Chelsea.
I
Even
think
even though
just-
she's just been signed.
Especially Zack.
I mean,
mate.
she's
Adam
just
Cole.
started.
She's gonna be a-
started a new thing with
Who?
Zack on
Adam
TV.
Cole.
Yeah.
As please don't leave.
See,
Zack.
Adam Cole's an interesting one because I'm pretty sure he's guaranteed a lot of money and isn't actually like. At the moment in NXT, he's probably got maybe another year in NXT. He's probably going to end up the NXT champion at some point because we talked about this on recent developments. Like NXT at the moment is its full brand, and they've got to keep hold of people to make it a brand that people will want to come and see. Adam Cole is one of the star attractions of that at this moment in time, and they're going to try and keep hold of him for a while. And I think he will eventually end up NXT champion,
Joe, who I reckon's leaving.
probably the end of the year. But yeah,
Not yet,
go on.
but when they call him up to the main roster and he loses the hype that he had in NXT, I wouldn't be shocked if Dream jump ship.
Same.
Really.
Because Velveteen Dream
You'll get
would be
booked wrong.
so over in AEW, but he'll be lost in the mix on the main roster.
Yeah.
On SmackDown.
Unless he's put into the main
he
event
won't be.
and is put straight there.
But he won't be, and he never
No.
will be.
No.
Because, as we all know, Vince McMahon, he's got his prejudices. He's an old man. He's set in his ways. And people, the infamous quote, not from Vince, but from the fellow who's going to be in charge next, is people like you don't become WWE champion.
Was that scripted or not, though?
Well, I think you'll find it
I think
doesn't really
there's
make a
always some
difference.
truth to a statement like that.
Of course
though.
there is.
Oh,
And it's
even
still
if it's
problems.
scripted, it still has to pass through Vince. He has to get
Yeah.
the approval.
Yeah, true.
This is a man who dropped an N-bomb on camera. He really doesn't care.
And I think as well,
Called Sabu a
Dream-
member of the Taliban.
Exactly.
I think Dream's the kind of person as well who knows his worth. I know he does that in gimmick, but I think in real life,
He's money and he knows
he's
it.
living his gimmick.
Yeah.
And I think he knows that he's what he's worth, and I think that he'll turn around and say, you know what, fuck this.
And he would be the biggest fuck you for AEW to sign if they said, oh yeah, you know you're basically homegrown talent, we've poached him because we're going to treat him better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy that you said, oh, he may be a future star in a couple of years. Yeah, he's our star now.
Exactly.
You know what would be cool when AJ finally gives up his thingy? If I'd, like, my little mark out moment would be like, for some reason or whatever, Balor gets a really bad injury and WWE can't clear him even though he can clear to wrestle elsewhere. And then, like, he goes to AEW. And then, like, Adam Cole leaves and then he goes to All Elite and then Kenny joins. And then AJ, like, retires from WWE and he joins. That would be the best.
So you want New Japan from about 2013?
But
Yeah,
they're a bit
it's
older.
I want
Yeah.
being the Elite
Yeah.
on All Elite.
on all the late, but there we go. It was interesting. On just on the quick note that that the Young Bucks had denied WWE contracts just before all this went down as well.
Yeah.
Now we know why, because they're always in the
Like
works.
they said there was like to be told you were. It was like we always had a clue how much we was worth, but then the fact that WWE said to them, "This is what we're offering you," like they said themselves, there was like it was so hard to turn down. They said we was so ready, like so as much as everyone was like, "Oh, the Young Bucks will never go to WWE," they openly said, to be honest, if we didn't have this massive like backing behind us, we probably would have gone.
Yeah, tasty. So I feel like something's just gone down over there, but we'll wrap this up. Anyway, folks, that was our podcast on AEW Wrestling. There'll
Hope
be
you
more
enjoyed.
to come on
All Elite
AEW
Wrestling.
when we AEW Wrestling on All Elite
Wrestling.
on All Elite Wrestling.
All Elite Wrestling Squared.
There will be with the next time.
Circle.
Wait! The next time we'll cover All Elite will be at Double or Nothing. We'll probably give them a few mentions on Fed Watches between now and then. But thank you for listening, folks. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Do not forget to check out our blogger page, and we will see you soon. But before we leave, this will be our last podcast for quite a while without our beloved Candy.
Oh, that is a shame.
Mate,
We love you, Candy.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. We're gonna miss you.
from introducing us all to practically everyone apart from Willow to New Japan, maybe not Alex either, but especially me and Croft
Yeah, especially
to New Japan, and
And for just being a fucking belter fella.
from
I am indeed.
being a belter
Class
fella,
guy.
from producing some of the funniest fucking one-liners in this country. Country history? I'm so pissed. From producing one of the best one-liners that this podcast has ever seen and being a top fucking bloke. Mate, we will absolutely miss you. Have an amazing time in China and we will see you so soon.
Thank you very much. I did the wrong thing to say. Hashtag Sable for Hall of Fame.
Hey!
May the candy shop never close.
May the candy shop will never close.
Hey, Mark Mero almost hit moves.
Yeah! That Pints of Palm Drums episode may or may not be out by this point, but there we go. Thank you for joining us, folks, and we'll see you soon. Bye!
Bye then.
Oh, fucking slash them fucking bifters out, lad.